What's up, you guys? Tyler Huxford here, and for today's video, we're going to be showcasing the innovative marine 40-gallon Nano, which sits in my living room tank. So, a lot of you guys have asked about this tank and have been very complimentary towards it, which I really appreciate because this tank was just an absolute journey. It was actually my first time keeping a Reef tank, which was this small, which has been a challenge. So I'm here to talk about this tank, essentially pop open the hood and showcase what makes this tank tick, what the overall goals are here with the tank, highlight some of the TankMates, and go over a little bit of the routine of what it takes to have a tank that looks like this. So let's jump into things here. So again, innovative marine 40-gallon tank. I believe they call that the Nuvo 20. Don't quote me on that, but Nuvo something or other. And I keep things pretty simple because simple processes as well as simple features makes for just less headaches and reefing. But what we have here is we have the innovative marine skimmer out of box. I like to use 2 filter socks. This came with 1 filter sock. I just grabbed another filter sock. Wasn't that difficult. I do run some carbon in this, but just in a sack. I have a UV sterilizer from Innovative Marine, but I imagine the bulbs burnt out on that. I just haven't replaced it, so not really sure if that's even doing its thing. But it's in there, and then I've got a heater in there that keeps things at 78 degrees, just a simple one. And then I do run a Nero 3 in this tank at 75% just to give it some flow. I like to see movement in my tanks, and this gives plenty of movement. But it probably had decent movement on its own as well. I think that this just helps keep some of the detritus off the rocks, which in a tank like this, that's kind of important. And then as far as lights go, so what I'm showcasing here is a Radion XR30, and it's a Generation 3, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. So this is actually a little whiter than I usually like. I prefer the blue lights, which, really bring out the fluorescence and colors in the corals. But you know what? This light has absolutely made the corals in my tank pop. The polyps are extending more. Things are flowing around and extending a bit more. It's just kind of, brought a reminder to me that what's aesthetically pleasing to us might not always be what, causes corals to be their happiest. So I think overall the tank really likes this light, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. And, this tank, I've been growing corals for about 1 year and 3 months, and realistically the majority of the growth was done under an AI Prime 16 HD, as well as a Kessel A360X, the classic Kessel shimmer machine. And I just turned those things up as high on the blue spectrum as I could, ran them side by side, but the AI Prime was starting to give out, unfortunately. I've actually had several of my AI products, both lights and as well as pumps, kind of give out on me. And so rather than replacing what I had, I just decided to buy a light from a company that I know works, which is the Ecotech company. And so I'm using this XR30 Generation 3. One warning I'll provide for anybody considering buying a used light, even from somebody who maybe never got around to using the light, kept it in a box. That's what happened to me, by the way. I got this for a great deal, but I'll never be able to program it. So the Generation 3 Radions, you actually have to hook up to a computer and program the schedule and the spectrum on a very outdated software, which is just no longer usable. So I'll never be able to program this light. And I also, the light will never come on its own. I'll have to come down here and turn it on just every day, but I'm okay with that. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But let's talk about the TankMates here for a little bit. So we've got 2 Black Storm clownfish. Love these guys. I bought these guys because it was ironic. My goals with this tank. You've got this tank that's just boasting with color here, right? But these guys are just black and white. So I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of people like these fish. They call them the cowfish. I do have a blue spotted jawfish named William. I've got a 6-line wrasse, classic utility fish. I've got a firefish who likes to hang out in this corner, kind of shy but beautiful. And then I've got a green mandarin who just eats the copepods in the tank, and he's been a happy guy for over 1 year now, even in a 40-gallon, folks. So there you go. It's possible. Mandarins live. And then you've got this yellow I almost called him a yellow tang. He is not a yellow tang. And then you've got this mimic tang here, who I originally bought to help fight off a green hair algae problem, and he has done just a tremendous job of that. But unfortunately, he's just getting too big for this tank, and I will have to move him eventually. I actually tried to move him the other day into my office tank, but I have too many tangs in my office tank, and they just absolutely almost killed this guy. So we've got to find a home for him, unfortunately, unless we move into our next house and buy a bigger tank that can facilitate all of the tangs at once. So I'm hoping we can do that, because I just absolutely love this guy, but jury's out on that. Now let's go ahead and highlight this tank here. So again, I'm going for as much color and movement as possible. So I'm not particularly a fan of acros. I do have a few in here. I've got a golden acro. I have the forest fire digi in here as well, so I do have some sticks, but I actually much prefer zoas, polyps, and LPS corals. So that's kind of what I'm going for here, both because I just like the look, but let's face it, it's also easier to maintain. But ultimately, I like movement and I like color. I just think it's more aesthetically pleasing than a tank, which you are blow and flow in every direction, but everything just sits still. I think that's kind of lame. So, taking a look at the top of this tank, we have a red cap monopora, bird's nests on the sides and the top here. We have zoa colonies, which are growing together. Those would be the emeralds on fire, rainbow incinerators, and the fruit loops there. It's been interesting to watch those grow, because you ultimately learn, what's more dominant, what kind of takes over. And the rainbow incinerators, it looks like, won't make it for long, but I'll probably find another frag of those and place those somewhere. We've got the solar flares up there, which are starting to open up. That's exciting. A cabbage coral. We have a little bit of jack-o'-lantern lepto in there, which gives it great color. I'm hoping that won't take over too much where the zoas are, but honestly, it probably will. We've got the Hellfire torch, which is the best torch money can buy for under $250, and then we've got the Bowsers, the Predator zoas, and then we've got the orange oxides and the dragon eyes, which are all growing together. I love putting Bowsers as close to the top of tanks as I can, because it just brings out way more color in them than if you put them on the bottom. If you put them on the bottom, they essentially become like candy apple zoas, which no one loves. We've got the toadstool, leather coral, and then even a frog spawn over there on the side. Can't wait to watch that thing grow. It's finally recovering. When I first ordered him, I was kind of afraid that guy was gonna die on us. Moving over to the right, but kind of keeping things on the top there, we've got a beach bum monopora, which, to be honest, really isn't growing that much. He's kind of been a slow grower. And then we've got just behind him, you probably don't see it, but we do have a grafted monopora, green and red. Nice piece of green on him. It's hard to find grafted monoporas where the red just doesn't absolutely take over. We've got the sunset monopora there. Excited to watch that grow. Nice contrast. We do have the another frog spawn there, which is the purple tip. That's my favorite. Love the contrasting green and purple. And then you've got our acro there. That's the golden rod acro. Your hammer corals, and then that rock is filled with super saiyan zoas, which you can't see. They're on the back side. Poor planning on my part, because I love those. Orange oxides, and you've got the Keds reds. Moving on down towards the middle, this is where the clownfish like to hang out, so this is the part where I have to use the most glue to keep everything intact. So we do have that frog spawn there. We've got an LPS coral. We've got a hammer coral, which has died at some parts. I actually had to rescue that guy from a kalkwasser overdose last year, and that's what caused me to place him in this tank. So he's recovering. That's been good to see. We've got the candy canes there right in the middle. We also have the bubble coral, which love bubble corals. I think that's a good spot for him. We've got the Bizarro Cyphastria there. Can't wait for this guy to grow out. I love the colors on him. And then, of course, we've got the bounce mushroom. Lots of you have asked about this guy, and I think we'll do a giveaway with this guy once we get to 10,000 subscribers. Right now we're doing the giveaway at 2,000 subscribers for the Grandmaster Krakatoa Zoas. Speaking of which, those guys are over here. So if you want to enter that giveaway, just comment "here for the crack" on any of my Reef videos, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That earns you an entry. But we also have sugarcane acans here, Bam Bam Zoas. We have a nice Favia Zoa here, which name escapes me. If you know the name of this Favia, you can comment below. But it's pretty cheap Favia, but it's my favorite. I love the yellow that's in it. We've got a lot of Tequila Sunrise mushrooms in there, as well as your Grandmaster Krakatoa Zoas, your pink diamonds, and then I've got Rastas and Super Saiyans on the side, as well as some blue hornets that we're just waiting to grow. Making our way down, we've got, my favorite part of the tank, which is the Zoa garden. We've got everything from Super Saiyans to LA Lakers, Keds Reds, Purple Hornets. We've got mandarins, orange mandarins in there. We've got orange oxides. We've got blue blueberries. We've got Rastas. We have snitches down at the bottom, solar flares, eagle eyes. We've got the AIOs. We've got, moving on this side, we've got blondies, and we've got Twizzlers. It's been interesting watching this because you absolutely learn what Zoas just like to take over and grow, and which polyps get big. And hindsight's 2020, but I probably would have repositioned some of these Zoas if I would have known, which ones you almost want to prevent from growing too fast and which ones you want to grow even faster. But now these have been growing great, and folks, all I do is feed frozen food, and that's been, corals like frozen food. They'll find that food. I just really don't think you need to dose anything like, I don't really believe in reefroids or amino acids. I think if you're feeding frozen foods, your corals are going to do just fine. Moving over, we have the War Paint and the Green Apple Scolies. These guys are beautiful. I want probably one or two more Scolies to finish this garden, and then they sit right next to my favorite Zoa. Which is the Hallucination Zoa. I wanted to keep this guy out of the garden until he's got a few polyps on him, which he finally has 2 behind him, but I can't put him anywhere until I know, that he's going to do fine on his own and that he's not going to be overtaken by, an ambitiously growing Zoa colony nearby. Then, making our way over here, this is the side of the tank where I really have to work on the most. So would love to get your thoughts even of what to include over here. I've got a basic red acan, another Favia. There is a pink chalice here. We do have candy canes here. There's a frog spawn in the back, which isn't particularly colorful, which is why I put it in the back. If it wants to grow and kind of fill up what's back there, that's fine, just not the front. I do have a Hollywood Stunner in the front, which I sort of regret, but this is actually a good spot to put him because this is a coral that I think tends to take over, and he's not really able to do that because he's not receiving the light to take over. But then I struggle with green hair algae over here, and that has kept a lot of Zoas from taking off. And then I put a Zoa here called a Ketchum, which has just grown way too much. And now I'm actually trying to find colonies and things to put on top of him to stop that colony from growing. And then of course I've got plenty of space over here on the side to put all kinds of things. So I'm thinking about putting like a rainbow acan here. I think that since this is a tank, I can finally grow acans here because I don't have pygmy angels. That's probably what I'm going to do in this spot, but I would love to get your guys' thoughts on what would be cool to include here and anything else that I might be missing. That's it for today's video, folks. Hopefully you liked that. If you enjoy this content, go ahead and like and subscribe. Obviously, I like to put videos weekly out there highlighting some of the fish and corals in the tank, as well as just addressing some of the hot topics out there and on online reefing. So tune in next week, folks, and happy reefing out there.